so question 39 said, in 2010, there were 8 homes on the street, and each home was valued somewhere between $250,000 and $350,000. 2 new houses were built on the street in 2011. One of the new homes was valued at a little over $2 million, and the other was valued less than $100,000. If the value of the original 8 houses remains the same, if it can be determined of the mean, median, standard deviation, and range, which of the following increase the most? So, it's helpful to know what all of those things stand for. What's the mean? The average. Okay, if you throw in a house valued at over $2 million, is it going to change your average? Yes, because all of our other homes were between $250,000 and $350,000. So our average is certainly going to go up. But
You also had a low.
right, we also had a low one in there. And keep in mind we still had 10 total houses. So is it going to change some? Yes. But I had a really high one and a really low one. So when I put those together, it's still going to stay similar to where it was. So it'll change, but not massive difference. The median. Do you guys know what a median is? The middle. If you list them in order from small to large, your median is the middle number. Would the median change at all? Because I added in a low one, I added in a high one, the middle number stays the same. So the median wouldn't have changed at all here. Standard deviation. Do you guys know what that means? It's a measure of how spread out your data is. And the calculation is fairly complex, but basically a big number means there's a lot of variation. Okay, we have high, we have low. If it's a really small number, it means everything was about the same. So when I threw in a high and a low, it's going to increase our standard deviation. Do we have the information to tell how much? No. Okay, the last one. What's the range?
The distance from the base from the decimal.
If you subtract your highest and lowest. Okay, before, my range was $100,000. Now, my range is probably closer to $2 million because we had something over $2 million and something under $100,000. So, that one saw a massive change. It went from $100,000 to $2 million. That is the biggest change that we can see there. So given that we don't have all the information, the best information we can say is the range would change. That one was D. Number 40. A house painting company assigns 3 employees to a particular customer's house. The first employee paints 3/7 of the house in her 4-hour shift. The second employee paints another 1/4 of the house before the third one takes over. If all 3 employees paint at the same rate, how many hours would it take the third employee to finish painting the remainder of the house by themselves? So first, we need to figure out how much of the house has been painted. Okay, grab a calculator. You don't have to do this by hand. What's 3/7 plus 1/4? Did you guys get 19/28? Okay, so that is the amount painted so far. How do we find the amount remaining? Okay, we need a whole house painted, so if we subtract those, we get 9/28. That's the amount remaining. Okay, the easiest option from here. We know they paint at the same rate. So you can find a rate, or what we could do is set up a proportion. Okay, the first person painted 3/7 of a house in 4 hours. I know they have the same rate, so it would be equal to, this one has to paint 9/28 of the house, and we don't know how long. So we could say like in X hours. And the only way I'm allowed to do that is because I know their rates are the same. So then, how do you solve that? Right, so then you can divide by 3/7, you can multiply by 7/3. Calculator thing I want to talk about on these calculators, if you're dividing fractions, put them both in parentheses, otherwise you will get the wrong answer. So make sure you know how to plug that in. I think we get 3 for our answer. So it would take this person 3 hours. Now, is that the only way of doing it? No. ACT doesn't care how, so if you had a different process for getting there, that's fine. We just have to be able to get to an answer. Any questions there? Question 41. So this is exponent rules. So I'm going to talk about how to do this using our algebra rules. A strategy as we are going through our math questions in the next few weeks, one strategy I'm going to give you is if you get a question like this and you don't know what to do, has variables in it, you can just plug in numbers for x and y and try to avoid 1s and 2s, but maybe like a 3 and y is 4. You can plug them in using your calculator, see what answer you get. Go to your answer choices, plug in 3 for x and 4 for y, and see which one gives you the same answer back. Okay, so that is one solid strategy. The math behind this, if you have an exponent on the outside, what do we have to do? We distribute it to each of them, multiply with the exponent that's already there. So we get 3 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd, y to the negative 9th. On the bottom, a couple different ways to think about this. A square root and a square, what would happen with both of those? They cancel. But that just leaves me with a negative, so it makes each of these a negative 1 power. 3 to the 3rd is 27. We have x cubed. What does a negative exponent do? So my y to the 9th would come down. My x to the negative 1 would come up to the top. My y to the negative 1 would come up to the top. So then if you simplify, x to the 3rd times x, we have 3 x's and 1 more give us 4 x's. 1 y on top, 9 on the bottom, so if you subtract 9 minus 1 is 8. So the correct answer there was A. Certainly, if you don't remember those exponent rules, you could plug in numbers for x and y and see which one gives you an equivalent answer. Number 42. A pet sitter knows that her client's 5-digit alarm code contains the digits 2, 3, 1, 7, and 8. She cannot remember the order of the first 4 digits, but she knows the last digit is 7. So we have 5 digits. All we know is there's a 7 at the end. If she randomly guesses the first 4 digits, what's the probability that she enters the correct alarm code on her first attempt? All right, so what we have to do is figure out probability is part over a whole. Okay, it's a fraction. The whole is how many different options there are. So if I'm looking back, I know this first digit could be a 2, a 3, a 1. It can't be a 7 because that's the last digit, so 8. Right, so there are 4 options for the first code. Then if I use one of those numbers here, how many options would I have for the next one? 3. No matter which one I took out, if I take one out, there's only 3 left. If I take one out, there are now 2. And if I take one out, there's only 1 option here. To get your total, you actually have to multiply those. So you do 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So that gives us 24. How many correct codes are there? 1. So the probability is 1 out of 24. Does that make sense? If we hadn't known the last digit, then how many options would there have been for the first one? 5. So you would have had to do 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. All right, 43. This is another Great question that you could, if you don't know, plug in numbers for A. So try to avoid 1 and 2. But you could put in a 3 or 4, see what you get here, plug it into the answer choices, see which one gives you the same. But we could also use our calculator to help. There's several different options. Can you do 1/3 minus 1/2 on your calculator? What's that give me? Couple different strategies to finish from here. One option is, if I look at 6, 4, and 3, we know in a fraction it's legal to multiply the top and the bottom by the same thing. What's the least common multiple? What number could I multiply by that is divisible by a 6, a 4, and a 3?
12.
Okay, so negative 1/6 times 12. 1/3 times 12 is 4. A over 4 times 12, so think of it as a 1/4 times 12 is 3, and you still have the A. So that's infinite. Do you guys understand when I'm saying plug in a number? Like, give me a number for A. 3. Okay, everybody grab your calculator. So I'm just going to plug this in. 1/3 minus 1/2 over 1/3 plus 3/4. Make sure if you're using like the graphing calculators, you need parentheses on the top and bottom. So you're just replacing that A with a 3. And it gives me negative 2 over 13. Is that what you guys got? So then you go to your answer choices. On A, if I plug in a 3, I get 4 plus 3 times 3, and that's 13. Not the same, so option A is out. If I do option B, negative 2 over 4 plus 3 times 3, I get negative 2 over 13, and we have a winner. They match. Okay, so even if you don't know how to work it out, if you can plug in a number on your calculator, you can find your correct answer from there. A library classifies each of its books using a 5-character code. The first character denotes one of 15 different genres represented by the 15 letters A through O. So it's asking us to count, if we look at the end, we want the maximum number of books. So how many options are there for the first one? 15. Okay. The second character denotes one of 11 different subgenres denoted by 11 letters B through Z. So there are 11 options for the second number. The final 3 characters each consist of a single digit from 0 through 9. So how many options are there? 0 through 9, there are 10. Digits can be repeated. So how many options are there for the next one? 10. Still 10. And still 10. Now what if I said they could not be repeated? 10, 9, 8. Okay, so if I'm counting how many there are, we just multiply all of this together. And we should get 165,000. Did you guys get these questions when you did it on your own, or are we kind of to the point where everybody started missing a bunch? Missing a bunch. Do you think after going through it, would you be able to get some of these questions? Okay, so this is beneficial. Still learning something here, helping. 45. The figure below denotes or shows the graph of a function f equals g of x in standard xy coordinate plane. If every point is shifted 3 units to the left. Okay. So remember, left and right is attached to the x. It does the opposite of what you think. So if you add to x, it moves it in the negative direction. If you subtract from the x, it moves it in the positive direction. So if I want to go left, we would have to add. And 2 units down. Up and down is on the end, it does what it says. So if I want to go down, we would just subtract 2. So the correct answer there is B. Any questions on that one? All right, number 46. If you know how to get to it, there is a place to enter logs on your calculator. So you could just really go through and check the answer choices. The thing that you need to be cautious of is the actual log button on your calculator is log base 10 and not necessarily what we want. So you can't just push the log button written here. You would have to go into, let's see, I don't use it very often. I don't remember. Most of you are using the graphing calculators, right? All right, everybody grab a graphing calculator. I want to show you where you can go on here to work one of these out. So if you push math, and then if you go down, A says log base. Okay, and it looks like that. So what I want to do is just practice guessing and checking. So you should have something that has log and then a little square at the bottom and then a big square that we can enter. Does yours not have it? Okay. So here's what I want you guys to do. Guess and check. What is option A, or F in this case?
-9.
-9. So if you put in a -9 and then 1/27, what does it say? So we're trying to type this in. Log, if the base were -9. We're trying to make it equal -3. What happens when I type in the -9? Error. It won't work. Okay, so that isn't it. Remember, if you hit second enter, you can bring it right back up. So then we can just go change the -9 to a -19. And what does that tell me?
Error.
Error again. It's not that one either. Okay, second enter. Let's change it to a 3. And that one is -3. So the correct answer is 3. Now, that's how you get it if you don't know how to do the math. Okay, use our resources. They allow a calculator. You can use it. The math way, remember base logs can be written as exponentials. So it means n to the -3rd power equals 1/27. A negative exponent puts it on the bottom. If you cross multiply, you get n to the 3rd equals 27. The opposite of a 3rd power is the 3rd root. So n is 3. Right. 2 different ways, got the same answer both ways. Okay. 47. I want to know for which of the following sets contains all the integer values k, for which 1/6 is less than k/5 is less than 3/4. What do you think our fastest strategy is here? Plug them in. Okay, don't worry about trying to solve this. Option A says a 1 and a 2. Let's check. Okay, if it helps you, you can convert these things into decimals. 1/6 is 0.16 repeating. 3/4 is 0.75. Okay, if I put in a 1, 1/5 is 0.2. Does 1 work? Yes. Okay, if I put in a 2, 2/5 is 0.4. Does 0.4 work? Yes. Does that mean option A is the right answer? No, it means 1 and 2 need to be in my answers. Look at those answer choices. Which ones can I throw out already? B, D, and E are out. Option C has a 3. Let's check if 3 works. So if I put in 3, 3/5 is 0.6. Is 0.6 between them? Yes. So the correct option is C. So just guess and check. We plugged in the numbers and found which ones worked. All right. 48. I know x is less than y is less than z. And x times y times z is less than 0. Which must be true? Okay, again, there's a mathematical way, but this is the end of the test. You're probably running short on time. You're getting to some pretty complex questions. So what do you think we could do here? Yes, okay. If I multiply these 3 things and get something less than 0, that means at least one of them has to be negative, right? Could they all 3 be negative? If you multiply 3 negatives, do you still get a negative? Yes. Could 2 of them be negative? No. All right, so let's just pick some numbers that meet these requirements. So x has to be the smallest. So what if I said x is -8? Y has to be the next one, so maybe -2. And z is -1. So x, y, z is in order. If I multiply those, we get a negative answer. All right, I'm going to go to my answer choices and see which ones I can eliminate. Okay, and everybody should be participating with me here. So if I go to F, x, y, so x times y is 16. Y, z, y times z is 2. Is 16 less than 2? No. So I found numbers that worked. That option didn't, so I had knocked off F. Okay, G, x plus y, so that would be -10. Y plus z is -3. Is -10 greater than -3? No. All right, x divided by y. -8 divided by -2 is 4. Y divided by z. -2 divided by -1 is 2. Is 4 less than 2? No. J, x, so -8 less than y times z is 2. Is -8 less than 2? Yes. Have I guaranteed that's the right answer? We should probably go ahead and check the last one as well. X plus z, so that would be -9, is less than -2. Is -9 less than -2? Yeah. So what do I need to do? I've narrowed it down to 2. What should I do? Plug in different numbers. Okay, try a different set of numbers and see if we can eliminate something. So we said at least one of them, we could have 1 negative number or 3 negative numbers, right? We did the option with all 3. Let's try an option with just 1. What if x is -2? Can any of them be 0? No, then it would equal 0, and that wasn't an option. So maybe y is 1 and z is 2. All we have to check are these last 2 and see if they work. So if I look at this one, x, so -2, less than y times z, so 1 times 2 is 2. All right, the last one, x plus z, so that's 0 less than y, which was 1. All right, if I'm looking at that, which of those is true? Is -2 less than 2? Yeah. Is 0 less than 1? Yeah. So they're still true. Does that mean that they're both the correct answer? No, it means that I might need to pick different numbers. Now, is this question worth me spending 10 minutes on? No. So my suggestion is, if you've tried a couple set of numbers and you haven't figured it out, circle one and move on. We have a 50-50 shot at this point. What we haven't done is tried any fractions. So we could try plugging in some fractions here as well and see. So maybe let's give it one last shot here. So if my x were a -2, what if my y was 1/4? And my z is 1/2. Okay. Actually, let me pick a different z. I know. Let's just do one fraction. Z is the biggest number, so let's say z is 10. Let's try spreading them out a little more and see if it makes a difference. So if I look at j, x, so -2, is less than y times z. So -1/4 times 10, or sorry, 1/4 times 10 is 2.5. So that one's still true. If I try k, x plus z, so that would be 8, is less than y. Is 8 less than 1/4? No. So sometimes if you're doing the plugging in numbers, the danger is you might have some answers that work for both of them. So you have to narrow it down. Try some different numbers. If you can't figure it out, guess one and move on. At least you've improved your odds of getting the right answer by guessing. 49. This is a question. We will talk about just some basic trig strategies in here. But this is a question that honestly, unless you are probably currently taking trig, you probably aren't going to get the right answer. It just is not something that's used a lot. It's a very abstract question, probably unlikely that a question like this would even show up on your ACT. So again, if you've got 60 questions, one question isn't that big of a deal. If you know you don't know how to do it, I would probably start by guessing numbers for X, Y, Z, plugging them in and seeing what works. If you're short on time, I would just circle one and move on. Okay, this is a pretty complicated question. When we look at this, it gives us a formula in here. It says c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c. So if you catch that the formula is given, you might be able to get the answer without actually knowing what you're finding here. This is what's called the law of cosines. It's something that you can use in non-right triangles. So it tells us which of the expressions could be used to find the measure of the smallest angle in the triangle. So it told us that side x was the smallest side, so the smallest angle has to be across from it. So this is my smallest angle that I'm trying to find. Okay, this formula involves only one angle, right there. So that has to be the one I'm trying to find. So we could call it, let's just call it, we can say C if we want. So now we plug in. Side C is the side opposite that, so it would be x squared equals, A and B are these other two sides. So that is y squared plus z squared minus 2a and b, that's y and z, cosine of the angle we're looking for. So we're just going to call it C for a second. All right, so we plugged it into our formula. If you haven't had trig, you probably don't know how to solve it. You might be able to use some process of elimination here and narrow it down a bit. So if I'm looking at this, I would have to get I'm trying to find that. So I need to move my y squared and z squared over. What would I have to do to get rid of this stuff? Divide it. Okay, let's just stop right there for a second. Look at this expression. Look at your answer choices. Do you see anything like that in any of your answer choices? Option D. Okay, we have this cosine to the negative 1 power. You probably don't know what that means, but inside there you have x squared minus y squared minus z squared. There's a negative, which ours is on the bottom, but could be pulled out in front, 2yz. So even though we didn't know all the math to get there, at this point, we could be able to tell that it's option D. Okay, that is the only one that has the expression that we found so far. So no point in continuing to solve it. We can narrow down our choices there. All right, question 50. Kyle scored an average of key points per game in his first 9 basketball games of the season. After Kyle scores n points in his 10th game, his average increased by 3 points per game. What is the value of n minus p? That's pretty confusing, isn't it? So we have the first 9 games. Okay, so you know you add up those values, divide by 9, and whatever his average was turned out to be p. Okay, that's his old average. All right, and so then we found the new average, so he scored n points this time. So when I divided that by 10, we got his new average. If we're in a time crunch, we are really just trying to figure out how can I get to my answer here. What we know is it increased by 3 points per game. His old average, if this were to go up by 3 points per game, then in each of those 9 games, he would have had to score 3 more points, right? So how many more points would we need? 9 games, 3 more points in each of them, so that would be, okay, so we know right there that he had to add 27 more points. Okay, n is the number of points scored in this new game. We already know it had to be at least 27, but keep in mind, if he kept his same average, okay, then he would have had to score the same amount of points in the 3rd game, or in the 10th game. If it went up by 3, he also scored 3 extra points in that 10th game, right? So I would have to add another 3 points to this. So that means the difference in my new game versus my previous average was 30 points. He had to score 30 more points in this final game for the entire average to be brought up by 3, because each game would have to go up by 3. 51. All right, if I'm talking about a circle, let's draw a circle. What do I mean by diameter? Right, it goes through the center all the way across. We know AB and CD are both diameters of a circle with a center at O. Okay, I don't know really anything else about them. Diameter has to go through the center. If the measure of angle AOD is 1.5 times the measure of angle AOC. Do I know how big AOC is? Let's call that X. If this one is 1.5 times as big, it would be 1.5x. Now remember, vertical angles, the opposite ones are the same. So if that's X, this one is also X. If this is 1.5x, this one is also 1.5x. Okay? So if I add those up, we get 5x equals, how many degrees are in an entire circle? So if we divide, we get 72. And we want the measure of AOD. AOD was 1.5x, so you have to take 1.5 times 72. And that should give us 108 degrees. The first term in sequence A is 6. The third term is 72. which of the following equations could define sequence A for all positive values of n? So this one I would just guess and check again. We know, or your notation, when you see a n minus 1, do you know what that means? It's saying the previous number in the sequence. Okay, so we can look, all of these are based off the previous number. So we have to think about getting this second number and seeing if the pattern worked. So if you looked at a, 3 times the number before, so 3 times 6, plus 2, n is the number in the sequence. So this is like n is 1, n is 2, n is 3. It's which term you're at. So 2 times, if I'm looking for the second one, term 2. So I get 18 plus 4, which is 22. Does everyone understand how I got that? So does that help me? I need to see if it works for the next one, right? So the pattern says 3 times the number before. So if I'm at 72, the number before is 22. Plus 2 times, we're trying to get the third term. So 66 plus 6, we got lucky. That's 72. So did this give us the pattern? Yes. This is another one you just guess and check. You just start at your answer choices, work through them. The biggest thing on these sequences questions is being able to read the notation, knowing that this is meaning just the number before it, and n is which term are you in the sequence. Are you the first term, second term, third term? All right, 53. If c to the negative 1, what does c to the negative 1 mean?
It's 1 over c.
Is smaller than c squared is smaller than the absolute value of c. So c has to be a positive. Or absolute value makes it a positive. Which of the following describes all the possible values? Again, let's just try them. Option A says c is less than negative 2. Give me a number smaller than negative 2. Negative 3. Okay, let's try it. So that would be a negative 1/3. Negative 3 squared is 9. Is negative 1/3 less than 9? Yeah. Less than. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Did that one work? No. So that's out. B said negative 2 is less than c is less than negative 1. So give me a number between negative 2 and negative 1. Okay. So 1 over negative 1.5. You can do it on your calculator. You get negative 2/3. Less than negative 1.5 squared. Do it on your calculator. What is negative 1.5 squared? So far, so good. Less than. The absolute value is 1.5. Is that true? No. 2.25 is not smaller than 1.5. So option B is out. C, a number between negative 1 and 0. So what could we try? So negative 0.5. So 1 over negative 0.5 would be negative 2. Less than. Negative 0.5 squared, positive 2.25. Absolute value of negative 0.5 is positive 0.5. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes. At that point, if you had time, you might double check the last two just to make sure we didn't get lucky here. But on this, since we're only looking at answers between those numbers, it should be correct. If we look, our other choices don't have any overlap. So that one would be our correct answer. All right, 54. This one is involving some probability, which we will go through. On a game show, contestants blindly pull a marble out of a bag containing 6 colored marbles. Each color is worth a certain number of points. The bag contains 3 green marbles that are worth 6 points each, 2 purple that are worth 3 points each, 1 yellow that's worth 0. A contestant pulls out a marble. We want the expected value. Expected value is like saying how many points do we think we would get on average. If I played this game all day long, how many points would I average? And so what you have to do is take the probability times the number of points it's worth. So there are 6 marbles in the bag. How many of those are green? 3. How many points is a green worth? 6 points. So what that tells me is 3/6 of the time, or half the time, I'll get 6 points when I play this game. Okay, my purples. How many purples are in there?
2.
So 2/6. How much is a purple worth?
3.
So 1/3 of the time I'm going to get 3 points. And then my yellows. How many yellows do we have?
1.
And how many points is a yellow worth? So 1/6 of the time I get nothing. Your expected value, all you do is add these together. So grab a calculator, plug them in. What do we get? Any questions on that? Try to get through these last few. A, B, C, D, and E are consecutive integers, such that, so A is the smallest, E is the largest, which is equivalent to the sum. So A is the first one, B, C, D, E. All right, and they just keep getting bigger. We want to know what would we get if we added these all together, which of them are equivalent. Look at your answer choices. Those are all in terms of other variables, right? A's or B's. So let's look at this. A is the first one. If you have the first one, if they're consecutive, how do you get the next one? Okay, so it'd be like A plus 1. How would I get the third term? A plus 2, A plus 3, A plus 4. Add those all together, and I get 5A plus 10. Okay. We want to know which of these answers is equivalent. So option A, is 5A plus 5 the same as this? No. Option B, 5B. Well, 5B is A plus 1. Does that give me the same thing? No. C, 5 times B plus, ooh, I didn't even push that. This one has a typo in it, actually. So if I add those together, we get 5A plus 5 plus 4, or 5A plus 9. Okay, that one is not the same, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the right answer. I think this was the one that had a typo in the question. I forgot to tell you guys ahead of time. Option D, 5 times C. Oh no, this one does work. Option C is A plus 2, so that would be 5A plus 10. Is that the same? Yeah, I was wrong. This must have been another one of my practice sets that had a typo in it. All right, so option C worked on that one. Or was it C or was it D? D. 5C. 5 times the third. So D is our correct answer. 56. All right, my set has a mean of 11. How do you get a mean? Okay. So if I add these up, divide by, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. I have to get 11. Can I find out what A is then? If I add these together, 52 plus a divided by 6 equals 11. Multiply over the 6. We subtract 52, we get, that last number is 14. How do you get, B is the median. How do you get the median? The middle number. So we have to list these numbers from small to large. So 4 is my smallest, 6, 7, 13, I know my A is 14, 22. So my middle number, I would have to add these up, divide by 2, and that would give me my median. So we get 10. So then A minus B, 14 minus 10 is 4. All right. 57. A rectangular room. Draw yourself a rectangle. Has a width in feet and a length in feet. And they are not the same. So it's not a square. It's just a rectangle, not a square. N and M are both integers, so no decimals. And the perimeter is 36. How do you get perimeter? So if I add them up, I would have 2M plus 2N equals 36. I want to know which of the following cannot be the area. So let's do this. Let's get one of these variables by itself. So I can subtract over my 2M. Divide by 2. So N is 18 minus whatever M is. All right. So if I'm trying to work backwards, can I get a 45? So think about things that multiply to 45, and essentially we're saying they have to add up to 18. What things multiply to 45 and add to 18? So we could get 9 and 5, but that doesn't add up to 18. Can't do 2.
15, 3.
Okay. 3 times 15 is 45. 3 plus 15 is 18. So it works. So it's not option A. We want to know which one can't happen. 56. Is there anything that multiplies to 56 and adds up to 18? So 1 and 56. 2 and 28. 3 doesn't work. 4 and 14. That's our set. So we can get that combination. Option C, 72. Things that multiply 72 and add to 18. So we can do 12 and 6. So that one's not it. D, 77. Anything that multiplies 77 and adds up to 18.
11, 7.
So I know by process of elimination it has to be E, because we are finding the one that could not work. 58. We have a circle. Okay. My endpoints make a diameter. So my points 9, 0, AB are a diameter of this circle. We want to know what the value of A has to be. This one requires a lot of knowledge. You have to know a little bit about the equation of the circle. We have to know that diameter is opposite sides. And we have to know that to get all the way across the circle, you have to find the distance between them. So, distance formula, 2 minus x1 squared, y2 minus y1 squared. This one requires a lot of work, so it wouldn't be a bad one to just circle an answer and move on if you were in the middle of your test. So, if I am on the circle, the distance between these. So we could say a minus 9 squared plus b minus 0 squared. All the way across is twice the radius, right? So you have to know that in a circle, this r squared is equal to 20. So the radius is the square root of that. So the radius is 2 radical 5. So the diameter is twice. So if you take that times 2, it's 4 radical 5. Now, again, this is complicated because we don't know A, we don't know B, we have a lot of formulas going on. And you could square both sides to get rid of your radical. So that'd be 16 times 5, so 80. And then try. And we want to know the value of A from here, so now it's kind of like a process of elimination. Plugging these things in. I am almost out of time, aren't I? So at this point, you would just plug them in until you found one that could be a possible answer. So the only one that works there is K. The others give you numbers that are too big. All right.